All right, all right. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining on another episode of the weekly news here. As you can see, I am all by myself at the moment, but we will be joined here by our dear colleague and friend Nico Jansen shortly as well. He is currently driving between Frankfurt and Munich, and promised to jump in here as soon as he is available. But nonetheless, good morning to everyone. Hope everyone is having a good Friday morning so far, and have been enjoying this summer that is impending here now. As you can see here from my face, I'm turning slightly pink, which is a clear summer sign here for myself. So looking forward to what to come here in Malta. We have more than 30 degrees sunshine, and we will not see rain for another 4 months now. That is what we have in front of us here in Malta. But yes, good morning, Nico, and good morning to Lars as well, and good morning to Rory, our dear colleague too. So as a prelude to what we have in front of us today, essentially, is another week of a lot of movements here within the industry, and one particular story that I would like to zoom in on today is the fraud case that is currently unraveling within the MGA here in Malta. And for those of you guys who are kind of in the know of what's taking place in Malta at the moment, is obviously on a grey listing. Malta was grey listed by the FATF, the Financial Actions Task Force, last year, which has kind of put some shade on Malta as a jurisdiction. And one of the or kind of the main requirement from FATF in order to whitelist Malta again, to bring Malta into an accepted jurisdiction, is the FATF wants to see action against money laundering. This is something that Malta traditionally has been very poor at executing. The anti-money laundering fraud cases has not lived up to the expected standard from the FATF. But we are seeing a quite significant case that is unraveling here now with the Malta Gaming, within the Malta Gaming Authority, where the former CTO, Jason Ferrugia, has been arrested and is currently facing criminal trial for a wide array of money laundering related basically cases here. So he's accused of extortion, trading with influence, fraud, misappropriation, disclosure of confidential information, and computer misuse. And we're going to go into this case a little bit here as well. This has been kind of a big story here in Malta, and obviously it is a case that is kind of casting shade and putting shade on MGA as a licensee as well. So definitely something that we'll go into, and we'll talk a little bit more here as we go into the hour. On a more lighter note, perhaps, obviously we saw one of the biggest influencers in the world entering the iGaming industry this week, and essentially Nicki Minaj, who is now the new creative director and special advisor to the MaximBet board. Now, MaximBet is run by a good friend of ours here at iGaming Next, Daniel Gratzner, the CEO and co-founder, and he has been obviously very excited for this deal to take place. Say what you will about influencers like Nicki Minaj, but we cannot deny the fact that this puts a lot of attention to our industry, and of course a name like a mainstream name, so to say, is again kind of pushing the industry further into the mainstream. So we're going to go into to that as well. And what Steve Thornton here mentioned, apologies if I misspoke. Yes, it's the former CTO of MGA, Jason Ferrugia, who is now stand accused for these crimes. So thanks for that correction. And while we are talking about drama and so on and so forth, there's also some drama within GAN, an iGaming company here who has not been performing that well on the stock markets lately. The founder of Coolbet, who was acquired by GAN about a year ago, a little bit more, about a year and a half ago, something like that, has now publicly released a letter asking for the resignation of the GAN board, and specifically targeting the CEO of Dermot Smurfit to be replaced here in a quite fiery and open letter to the shareholders of GAN, essentially. We're going to go into that as well. And finally, as well, we have seen the financial reports of Gambling.com Group, who published a 70% revenue increase in the first quarter of 2022. So positive results from Gambling.com Group, and of course interesting to discuss this as well, particularly because not only Gambling.com Group, but all the major affiliates that are publicly traded, at least, are heavily targeting the North American market, and they are more and more becoming reliant on the North American market, which is evident by the public reports. Question mark how that is going to play out in the future. While now we are seeing more and more states are being launched. The idea of the operators is to become more cost aware, decrease marketing expenses. Question mark, and how that will affect the publicly traded affiliates, of course. So we're going to talk about that as well. But as a starting point, I want to just kind of give a little bit of an update on the stock markets here that are related to the iGaming industry. So there is an ETF that is called the Bets Roundhill Sports Betting and iGaming ETF that I want to show here a little bit as well. We've talked about this before in the weekly news updates here, but I just want to kind of paint the picture here of how the industry is doing on the publicly traded market. So as you can see here, this is kind of zooming out in a 2-year span, where basically an ETF is essentially a collection of selected iGaming and online sports betting companies that is within kind of one ETF. Then it's called. It's a collection of stocks, essentially, that acts as an index for an industry, you could say. So we can see this as kind of the index of the iGaming and sports betting industries, and obviously, as evident by this graph, we saw, as we all know, there was a great uptick that happened due to the COVID pandemic, with the digitalization that was driving growth within the industry. Now, somewhere along January 2021 and throughout 2021, the industry index was quite flat. So during 2021, we didn't really see that much of an uptick. However, the industry was able to kind of hold the ground, so to say, and stand the ground from this major uptick that we saw in the markets. But in the since 2022, essentially, we've seen a drawback here of the industry, where I think if I'm gonna see if I can get this graph in front of myself. So essentially, since November of last year, we've seen a drawback of about 40%. This is a major drawback, of course, of the index of the industry. So that means in average, a publicly traded company within the iGaming industry has lost about 40% of its share value. And before we go on, just good morning to everyone who are jumping in and joining us here this morning. However, just zooming in a little bit further on the last week, not to be too negative here, we had a quite good week here in the last week, where the iGaming ETF is up about 6% on the stock markets. So a very, very good week for the iGaming industry here on the stock markets. And zooming in further, we can look at a couple of major companies within the industry. So the last week we've seen DraftKings is pretty much at a break even. We go down further. We can look at Catena Media has managed to increase about 3.4%, and our dear friends over at Kindred, there's a lot of speculation within Kindred now if Kindred is going to be sold, down 3% on the markets. And look at that, Nico is here. Good morning to you, Nico.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry for being late. I was just not stuck in traffic, but it just takes some time. Although I got up at 5:30 to drive down the autobahn from Frankfurt to Munich. So sorry for being late. Sorry,
Brilliant.
My fault.
Yeah, you have the autobahn, Nico. This should be like a 15-minute ride.
Yeah. But unfortunately, my Batmobile, which I just bought from Batman, tends to steer a little bit on the left as soon as I hit the 300 kilometers per hour. So that's why.
Okay. Yes, you have to work on the aerodynamics of the car, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. So Nico, we've been talking. Yeah, so Nico, we've been talking a little bit here. Just about kind of a wrap up what we have ahead of us today, of course. And just as a little bit of a prelude, just wanted to show kind of how the industry has performed on the stock markets. Since November, the industry has not been doing well on the stock markets, about a drawback of about 40%, which is not great for the industry. However, the last week, the industry has recovered about 6% of that. So this is the positive news. But you know what, Nico? Shall we just jump straight into the first topic here? And I would like to start at a lighter note, which is the fact that we have now gotten one of the biggest influencers in the world as a representative of the iGaming industry here. Nicki Minaj has signed a contract as a global brand ambassador for MaximBet. And I just wanted to kind of start off by an interesting comparison, because most of us will know that there is another really probabilistic partnership between Stake.com and Drake. And this has been all over the news, of course, with Drake, being seen gamble, sitting ringside at certain games and kind of betting with his laptop. And he's obviously streaming for Stake.com, and it's a very, very high profile partnership that has generated a lot of attention for Stake.com. And as a comparison here, just to show how big Nicki Minaj is, Drake, he has 112 million followers on Instagram, and Nicki Minaj is close to the 200 million mark following, essentially. So she is, I think, something like the 17th biggest account on Instagram, something along those lines. And the biggest one is Cristiano Ronaldo with something like 450 million, something like that. So that would be, I think, maybe the next target for a big iGaming company, if that would be possible. But still, Nicki Minaj, nearly 200 million followers, who has now announced this major partnership with Maxim Magazine and Maxim Bet, essentially. So, Nico, I know that you have kind of covered this story. Do you want to go into it a little bit deeper? What does it mean? And Nicky Heart from Robert Lenz over here. We have a fan. We have a fan in the chat.
Yeah, so the fun fact is, or what's quite amazing, they didn't just onboard her as some kind of, okay, we're having a partnership with you. They also onboarded her to their advisory board, so she is part of the company as well. And so they actually had the chance to get hold of Nicki Minaj, as you already pointed out. Very, very famous, big influencer, doing the music, etc. So she is a celebrity. She is for sure a celebrity, and now she's became part of the company as well. And what's quite astonishing, that Maxim Bet is literally always, defining the boundaries new. So they are kind of extending the limits. And if you just onboard someone like Nicki Minaj, also being part of the company, this just shows that also the gaming industry or celebrities have an appetite for the gaming industry as well, as you just did the comparison with Drake as well. So would be nice to just get some insights also from Daniel, our good friend Daniel Gretzer as well. And yeah, maybe this is something we can cover within the next 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know. Probably Daniel is still in the US, so that's why it might be a little bit difficult for him to get up early at 4 o'clock. But probably the next time we can just get some insights on this deal as well.
Absolutely, and like what Nico Jonasson mentioned here in the chat is that comparison again between Nicki Minaj and Drake, this other very high-profile partnership within the industry. Drake was the #1 most streamed artist of 2021 in the US with 8.6 billion on the month stream. 1 out of every 131 streams was a Drake song. That is just absolutely remarkable. And also something to think about here is obviously the kind of the type of following that Drake has would presumably fit more into the demographic of an iGaming company. Let's say that Drake is very much profiling himself at this like kind of larger than life. I think his Instagram handle is like Champagne Puppy or something like that, and that type of lifestyle is obviously what he is promoting through kind of stake.com, and it fits very well, and it converts very well, obviously. So the question is if this partnership with Nicki Minaj and Maxim, but how it will convert at the end of the day, and how they will activate this partnership. Will they be able to activate her to the same extent as Stake managed to activate Drake, for example? Obviously, Stake is kind of, or Drake is probably as kind of front and center to some extent, and is very active in promoting Stake.com. So the question is, will Nicki Minaj put the same effort and same kind of will she be able to generate the same the same type of customers to MaximBet as the activation of the partnership of Stake.com has managed to do with Drake? That is something that I'm quite curious to see here as well. And just as a final comparison as well, the just talking about like numbers on social media and so on, just as a comparison, Nicki Minaj is just behind Justin Bieber in following on Instagram. Again, it just goes to talk about how big this woman has been able to create this brand that is behind her. It's just absolutely remarkable. So it'll be interesting, as you say, Nico, to have further comments from Daniel Grassner in how they are looking to activate this partnership at the end of the day. So it will be very, very interesting to see what's happening there. Any final comments on your end, Nico, on that side?
If I'm not mistaken, so probably I'm getting this wrong, so don't judge me on this one. But when we just left the New York Yankees stadium, besides Daniel singing in the car while James King was our DJ, he was stuck in a call with someone actually joining the company in a quite specific role, and they were talking about the contract as well. So if this had been the contract of Nicki Minaj, what a coincidence! What a coincidence! Just after the baseball game, just having this one. But it was a fun ride, and Daniel, besides he's one of the brightest minds we actually have within our industry.
Yes.
Cutting a long story short, he's quite receptive, so you can talk to him all the time. He shares his knowledge, so he's for sure a great guy, and always time worth spent if you just have a chat with him.
Absolutely, Nico. Moving on to a little bit, let's say, darker topic, if you will. I'm saying that with my darker words, a bit darker topic.
So it's not the metaverse.
No, not the metaverse. That's even darker. But again, moving on here to Malta, where we are located, where I am located at least at the moment. There is a money laundering and bribery case that is unfolding at the moment within the MGA. Now, MGA is not MGA is not. They have obviously had previous cases here in the past. Most recently with Heathcliff Farrugia, the former CEO of MGA, obviously who was incorporated and in connection with Jürgen Fenech, who anyone who lives in Malta will be very well aware of that name. Jürgen Fenech was. I think this trial is still ongoing. I can't remember if I don't think the trial has been settled yet, but it was this very high-profile murder of the local journalist here a couple of years ago, Daphne Farrugia, who was connected to this major businessman in Malta, Jürgen Fenech, who also operated a casino in Malta. And Jürgen Fenech was very well connected politically. And it turns out now during this investigation that he had obviously been getting information from the MGA on competitors and so on and so forth. And so Heathcliff Farrugia, the CEO of MGA, was forced to step aside because Heathcliff Farrugia has quite close ties with Jürgen Fenech, and they've been going on trips together that was paid by Jürgen Fenech and stuff like that. Now the kind of the next scandal is unfolding here within the MGA, which is the fact that the former MGA CTO, Jason Farrugia, is now accused with money laundering, bribery, and there's a whole host of criminal charges against him, including extortion, trading with influence, fraud, misappropriation, disclosing confidential information, and computer misuse. And allegedly, this was because he is not charged yet, of course, so you should keep that in mind. But allegedly, this happened in cooperation with a former MGA employee that's called Iosif Galea, who is now a gambling consultant. It's quite common that former MGA employees turn consultants. Even Heathcliff Farrugia is a consultant as well. And essentially, Iosif Galea has made 177 Revolut transactions to Jason Farrugia of the MGA. Very suspicious, of course, and Jason Farrugia has not disclosed this income in his tax statement, and this basically pushed the local authorities here to push charges against Jason Farrugia. The overall ethos here is essentially that Jason Farrugia allegedly has leaked information and sold data to Iosif Galea, who is then working with a host of different iGaming companies. If you go on Iosif Galea's consultancy website, his clients includes a lot of different companies. There's probably about 40 different clients that are listed on his website, but some of them are, for example, No Account Casino, N Labs, which doesn't exist anymore. They were acquired by Entain. Global Gaming, PAF, Ninja Casino, 21.com, and many, many more. And so this is kind of the overall picture of the case here, Nico. What do you make of all of this? It's obviously a significant kind of blow towards the MGA and the reputation within the MGA, of course. How do you see things?
So first of all, it seems like it doesn't get quiet within the MGA, and as you already pointed out, when Heathcliff stepped down, also the chief regulatory officer, Carl Brinker-Peplow, he stepped down as well, and it was in 2020 or 21. So all literally kind of within the same time when all these allegations with the not attempted murder, it was a car bombing, if I'm not mistaken, from or where the journalist actually died, and it just seems like it doesn't get quiet at MGA. So first of all, kind of a lot of people actually leave MGA, which have which are quite insignificant and important positions, and then they become the consultants, as you pointed out, as well. And now, if the CTO is literally, and his wife are literally charged with anything and everything, which all the operators should never be actually linked with, like bribery, fraud, sharing, sealed and disclosed information, etc. As of now, he's just charged, right? And we should never, as long as there has been no final decision, for sure, people should be considered as innocent, right? But there's a little bit of bad taste comes along with this one, right? If one of the C levels of MGA is now and once again in a pretty bad spotlight, just put it this way. We don't know for sure if things like this have happened, but if each and every operator, we have to report to the FIAU, so it's the AML authority in Malta, which is linked to the MGA as well. As soon as you unfortunately don't hit the target lines and the timelines, can get quite uncomfortable for you as an operator. So we will just see how this turns out as well. And we should never forget that as of now, Malta is grey listed as the only and one and only country in Europe. And these kind of noises for sure don't lead to becoming whitelisted on the fast track once again. So we will just see, as said, how it actually turns out, and just wait
exactly.
for the final result.
And something, I mean, so the court case is currently ongoing, right? And it has been adjourned for now. We will see a continuation of this of the proceedings in court continuing on Monday. So we'll see this after the weekend. We'll definitely see an update on this case. And it will be interesting to see what comes out of that. But the biggest question here is if there was data that was sold, then who was the buyer? In my opinion, I think that's will be interesting to see if this court case will be able to figure out here as well. And as you point out here, the Jansen hasn't exactly been smooth in this case, right? It was 177 Revolut transactions. I mean, the Maltese authorities hasn't exactly been known for being very proactive and good at kind of charging anti-money laundering cases. But when you commit fraud through Revolut transactions, even the Maltese authorities are able to catch you. Let's say, I mean, it's remarkable, honestly, how I don't know what is even the right word, like how simple-minded you have to be if you are going to commit fraud and handle transactions via Revolut and bank checks, essentially. That is just remarkable, honestly. And also worth mentioning here is that when the MGA closed down the account, internal account of the CTO, Jason Ferrugia, he attempted still to access the MGA back end in order to extract information. And he was making several attempts. He was trying to create new profile under different names, and essentially after this investigation started, he still tried to enter the backends of the MGA, which is just again remarkable, how a CTO who should be technically skilled and knowledgeable enough to understand the implications of what he's doing still try to access the backend. And as Steve points out here, good choice of words. Infantile is probably the right choice of term here, because it is just absolutely remarkable. And something that's worth pointing out here as well, Nico, is the fact that as you rightly point out here, Malta is currently grey listed, for the inaction of not being able to pursue anti-money laundering type of crimes. And so if you're a mid-level or low-level anti-money launderer in Malta at the moment, it's probably best to stay low, because Malta Malta has to show action in order to be whitelisted again. And so being in court at the moment for anti-money laundering and fraud-related cases is not good. There is obviously a lot of pressure to convict these type of crimes at the moment in Malta. And so you don't want to be in court for these type of affairs at the moment, because a lot of resources will be poured into solving this case in order to showcase action to the FATF. And just as a final point here as well, Nico, on the grey listing itself, something that people should be aware of now is the fact that the next plenary in FATF is taking place in June. I think it's quite soon. I think it's just in a week or in 2 weeks. Which basically means that this will be the point where Malta possibly will be whitelisted again. There was an inspection taking place in Malta by the FATF earlier in the year. I think it took place in February or something like that. And the results will now be announced here during the next plenary of the FATF. And so the government is very hopeful that Malta will be whitelisted again now in June. And for those of us who are investing and so on, when the grey listing happened, we know that there was a downturn in the share prices for Malta-related iGaming companies. And so something that is definitely worth to keep an eye from an investment point of view is if Malta gets whitelisted, it's obviously very good news as well for those companies who are domiciled here in Malta, that Malta is not seen any longer as a questionable jurisdiction, at least from the eyes of the FATF. Now, again, we don't know if this is going to happen in June, but there is a lot of hopeful people who think that there is a good possibility that Malta will be whitelisted again. As a comparison, when Iceland was greylisted by the FATF, it took 1 year for them to action the bullet points from the FATF in order to take themselves to whitelisted again. Also mentioned here in regards to the Revolut, the 100. Can I just mention it again? 177 Revolut transaction. Did we mention that? 177 Revolut, ranging from hundreds of euros to tens of thousands of euros. Okay. And someone mentioned here, I imagine he was using Revolut virtual cards. They are a nightmare for operators at the moment in relation to AML. Good point. However, also checks have been written as well. That was, and I'm pretty sure that actually, I need to go back to the article here to write, but I'm pretty sure that the Revolut transactions was in the name of Joseph Galea, who is then kind of the connection here. Let me just have a look and see.
And Joseph Galea, he has been arrested already, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He is also arrested in connection to this case as a complicit.
Yeah.
So yes. So actually, the article says here that I'll quote here basically. The investigations into Farrugia and former MGA employee turned gaming consultant Isif Galea began, and it immediately became apparent that Galea had made 177 Revolut transactions to Farrugia. Transferring amounts ranging from 170 euro to tens of thousands of euro at a time. Transfers to Jason Farrugia's wife, Christine, was also noted. And this is also the thing with this case is that the wife of Jason Farrugia is also implicit into this case. Transactions have been made into her account, and also checks that have been written in her name has been signed by her as well. The wife of Jason Farrugia, and so it's a case of the wife of the suspect here also being implicit, which is a bit sad at the same time, because they were they were at first denied bail, and they have I believe 1 or 2 young kids as well, and the wife was pleading essentially that I'm not a criminal, I have kids to take care of and so on, but the court was quite firm that the law doesn't take into account your kind of marital status and so on and so forth. And so obviously a sad case, but at the end of the day, if you commit this type of frauds and actions, you have to face the consequences as well. So again, to close this off, we'll see a continuation here in this criminal court case from Monday, and I am definitely sure that the last word is not written about this case again. So we'll definitely follow up on this next week, Nico.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And just to give a little bit of a counter argument, if you're like, hey, yeah, I shouldn't be charged because I got kids, it should be the other way around. You shouldn't have done it in the first place because you have kids, if they actually did it, right? So that's the thing. So usually I just don't get this kind of argument like, okay, so if you have kids, you can do whatever you want to do because you have kids. No. First of all, responsibility starts with you in the first place. And if you have siblings or kids or whoever relying on you, and then it should be a little bit laid back. Just
absolutely. So to summarize here, obviously, this is not a good time for the MGA at the moment, with these kind of cases happening back to back at the same time as the license. The argument is that the license is becoming more and more watered out, considering that more and more local jurisdictions are regulating, and so the MGA.com license is in question, let's say, and the MGA has a lot to prove as we move forward. Nico, another point that I know is, and I know it was not on your agenda today, but while we are talking about a little bit drama here, I don't know if you saw the story of the Coolbet founder Jan Jansen calling for the GAN board, and specifically the CEO, Dermot Smith, to be replaced. Did you see that story?
Yes, I read along a little bit. And it was quite interesting, because if I'm not mistaken, the Coolbet has been sold to GAN or GAN, and I'm pretty sure that Jan Svensson made a decent amount of money, and now he's literally just questioning if the CEO Dermot Smurfit is the right one. So he's putting out some headwinds there, and there are rumors going around that it's because of his ego, and he was quite disappointed not being in charge of Coolbet anymore. But whenever someone just gains or hits a quite weak spot, and people catch up on this specific news, maybe he ain't wrong in the whole place. But I'm pretty sure that you read a little bit more in between the lines than I actually did.
Yeah. So to give some background here, I mean, Jan Svensson is a pioneer, you could almost call him, of the iGaming industry. He founded NordicBet in 2002. Which exited to a Betsson Group at 2012. I remember that well back in the day. And once NordicBet was exited, he then started Coolbet. And Coolbet, obviously an operator who did very, very well, and then exited to GAN about a year and a half ago. And I'm gonna see if we can get to if I can grab a screenshot here that I can implement in the stream. But the background here to this kind of controversial story is basically the fact that the market share of GAN has significantly diminished in the last, basically since the acquisition. The markets reacted very positively to the acquisition at first, but the company has then steadily declined. So if you look here in the stream, you'll see the GAN market value over the last 2 years. And you see the peak here on about 15th of February, where basically the share was at about $30. And today, the share value has gone from $30 down to $3.5. So it's a decrease of nearly 90%. Nearly 90%. Okay, so keep that number in mind, because what Jan Svensson mentioned here in the open letter to the shareholder is that he is sitting on 840,000 shares in GAN since the acquisition. And okay, let's do some simple math. How much is this worth? Right, so
used to be 25 million. Used to be
at the peak of the acquisition, $25 million worth of shares, which have now diminished down to $3 million USD. So almost a decrease of 90%, as we spoke about here before. So this, of course, have ruffled some feathers here with the Coolbet founder Jan Svensson, who have essentially lost 90% of his of the value in these shares. So perhaps it's not a surprise that Jan is calling for changes within the company when 90% of the market value of GAN has been lost, essentially. He also speaks about the fact that when the acquisition happened of Coolbet, that he was slowly and surely pushed out from the company. His interest was to continue. His interest was to continue to build GAN and to continue to help in the board and with a prominent position and so on and so forth. But it became clear that the CEO, Dermot Smurfit, did not want to continue the cooperation with the founder, Jan Jansen. And basically, Jan was kind of pushed out to a quite junior position to become an office manager of the office in Spain. So it was clear that the intention of GAN was not to keep Jan Svensson in the company, essentially. Jan is speaking a lot about the fact that he feels that the GAN, the board of directors is incompetent, and he's speaking specifically about Dermot Smurfit and calling Dermot out as not competent to run the company, essentially, and the mishandling of this company has led to the decrease on the stock market. Jan still feels that there's a lot of opportunity within GAN, but it needs the right management, essentially. Yeah. What do you make of this, Nico?
Yeah. So first of all, numbers don't lie, right? So as you pointed out in the beginning, which I didn't see, but you just wrapped it up, that the gaming operators, they lost about 40% in market cap, and now we are eyeing on a company which obviously lost 90% of the market cap. So they are outperforming in a negative way the industry they are in. And as you already mentioned as well, so Jan doesn't hold back. Speaking like
all guns blazing
now, yeah, but my problem now is that I currently hold 840,000 shares and know personally that the leadership team at GAN is non-effective and the board is weak. So he's shooting straight, but he has a valid point. If 90% of something is just gone, right? As numbers usually don't lie, and you just outperform the industry in a negative way. Should be the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jan is all guns blazing in this letter that is published both on LinkedIn and on Reddit, essentially. So if you go to Jan's LinkedIn page, so basically his name is Jan Svensson. Jan Svensson, founder of Coolbet. Essentially, you will find this letter, and he's putting up some bullet points here as well. He's saying that when he was told to wait and see about a potential position in GAN, he took some time to investigate GAN as an organization after this acquisition, including talking to many employees. He said he studied the organizational structure of GAN, and he believes it's not an effective structure, especially when it comes to the IT team. and he talks about that I had many questions regarding some very well-paid people at GAN, and this is something Jan talks a lot about in this letter, is the fact that GAN is not meeting its financial targets, but it's paying its top executives and executive team massive amount of bonuses, high salaries, and he's also accusing the company of the share options program that is launched within the company is only benefiting the top C-levels. Jan's argument is that a share options plan should be available to kind of most, like high-ranking managers and upwards in an organization, because obviously this is a retention tool, give shares in order to get employees to stay within the company. And he's putting he's choosing some very strong words in order to make the point here that even though the company has not met the financial targets, there's still a lot of well paid and a lot of high bonuses being paid out and so on and so forth, and this needs to change according to Jan. And so it's a very turbulent time at the moment. We have been trying to reach out to Dermot Smurfit, but we haven't gotten a reply yet. So this is a very one-sided story, of course, because we only have the information from the Coolbet founder here, Jan Svensson. But it would be very interesting at some point to see if we can have a opinion from GAN as well, and also to understand how they are going to turn this kind of spiral around as well. Because again, one thing is clear, and that looking at the share price and looking at the financial reports is that GAN has not been performing well over the last 1.5 years or so. What's your final comments here, Nico?
Yeah, so as already mentioned, so whether it's just ego or hard feelings, in the end, market numbers don't lie, right? And if you just outperform your kind of industry in a negative way, he has a valid argument. And would be interesting just to see how GAN would reply to this one, and maybe we can get Jan on one of our next weekly wrap-ups as well, and just give him another word, because it just seems like he has something to say.
Yes, absolutely. And so in the last point here as well, Nico, I know that there's been some numbers that have been published here as well. Just one point to bring up here is the gambling.com group, the affiliate, have published a quarterly report. And I just thought it was quite interesting. I mean, the quarterly report in general is not that big of a surprise. We saw a 70% revenue growth within the company, which is, it looks fantastic on a quarter-to-quarter basis. This can be explained of the fact that obviously, again, New York launching earlier in the year in Q1 was driving the growth together with the overall North American growth for the affiliate gambling.com group. And gambling.com, just like Catena Media, just like Better Collective, now derive more than 50% of their revenue from the North American market. Now, I think this is quite interesting because at the same time, Gambling.com Group is publishing headwinds in Europe. So basically, the revenue in Europe, except for UK and Ireland, fell by 35%, which is quite significant. And we see kind of the same kind of darker clouds forming over the affiliates as it has done for Catena Media, who is now considering to sell their flagship European brand, which is the Us Gamblers here, which we talked about last week. But also, I would question this strategy into North America and the reliance on revenue from the North American markets. I wonder for how long they will be able to show this type of growth in the North American market, because obviously there's only so many states, and many states have opened up for sports betting already. New York was a very big launch, and we are not expecting to see that big of a launch in the near future for another state. And at the same time, there is this push from shareholders who are demanding the operators to decrease the marketing expenses, and in search for profitability within the market in 2023. And so I wonder how this is going to affect the affiliates as we go into 2023, especially, and even onwards in 2022. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on at the moment, is development here within the affiliate businesses who are so reliant on the North American market.
Yeah. And especially, if just to give us a little bit more of an insight, because also the numbers of New York, they have been published as well, right? So first of all, and how often did we actually speak about the market size of New York, how valuable the market is, etc. And Caesars handed out a sign up and deposit bonus of $3,000, etc. And now just taking a look at the numbers, they had a handle within the first 4.5 months of 7.15 billion, right? Crazy number. But now the fun starts, because with this kind of handle, they did a gross gaming revenue, a GGR of 516, deducting the tax, which is 51%. So the operators, they literally keep around $250 million. That's what is left for the operators. And
Yes.
we know, okay, you got the DraftKings, you got the FanDuel, you got the BetMGM, so you got all the heavyweights. And now, keeping it simple, gambling.com is taking away from these $250 million, which are left over for the operators, probably 10 million. I don't know in which kind of states gambling.com is operating. Probably, to keep things easy, it's just New York. And there you just see that from $250 million, $10 million are taken out by the affiliates. And I'm pretty sure that Catena Media and the Better Collective have at least the same number. And there you just see how much the operators actually invest into this kind of market to gain some momentum in one market. And that's why, if I'm not mistaken, Caesars, they already said that they will significantly reduce their marketing expenses in the North American market. And that's just, if the hype gets a little bit quiet, because you just have the underlying numbers and you just see how valuable a market actually is, then the tension actually starts. And we will just see, first of all, if the tax rate of 51% will be or if the state of New York will be able to keep that tax rate, if operators do not make any money in that specific area as well. And as you pointed out, if California will not be coming within the next 12 or 18 months, Florida is off the table as of now, as the tribe is able to continue with their monopole. I don't think that Texas will be coming up with sports betting as well. So New York is the biggest state as of now, and I don't see any big type of this 4 states opening for sports betting in the near future.
Absolutely, Nico. So yes, let's see how things progress on the side of the affiliates, but definitely something to keep an eye on here. Nico, the hour is up, my friend. We had a lot of fun here today, and thanks as well for people who are joining us here this morning. And I can see Mark and Friend. Good morning to you, my friend. And it's been great to go through this hour with you guys. Hopefully we have been able to bring a little bit interesting information here. So we obviously gonna follow up on these articles here as we go forward. And Lars points out here as well for future, if we can focus on gaming in Asia. This is very good point. It is not easy to get information on gaming in Asia in general, because these markets, of course, generally tend to be on the dark gray or blacker side of things, and not much reporting and not much public figures that are being disclosed on that side. But absolutely, we will take that to us, Lars, and think more about this. And he also mentioned a really good point, which is the fact that there is a trend emerging within the operators now that are questioning the strategy of regulated markets, because regulated markets are turning out to be very unpredictable, which is the opposite of what they should be. They should be predictable markets. But as it turns out, regulators in Netherlands, UK, Sweden, Germany, so on and so forth, is making these markets very difficult to operate in, and many operators are now looking to Asia, for example, and other gray markets in order to find profitability. A couple of years ago, the trend was very much that the operators wanted to go towards a regulated environment, but that seems to be shifting slowly but surely here.
At least the official way, right? So there are some big operators who make quite a decent amount of money in Asia, which they officially don't do, right? So that's why Asia, each and everybody knows in the industry, you don't know the exact numbers, but usually, and just to lower the expectations of Lars a little bit, nobody speaks about it.
Absolutely.
Take the money, but don't speak about it. Pretty simple.
Absolutely. Nico, what do you say? What shall we jump over now to the beach? It's 35 degrees here in Malta. I am dying for a pina colada. What do you say?
Yeah, and then just figure out some AML restructuring of MGA, of course, which we already always do, and just enjoy the sun. So it was fun once again. Sorry for being late. And once again, shout out to the audience as well. It's always fun, not just also for the people who actually join us, or to the listeners who actually join the call later on, which I wasn't aware that a lot of people actually kind of re-hear what the both of us have just said. So that was fun as well, and that's fun as well.
Absolutely. Magical things, Nico. And also thanks to our sponsors, Place on a Simpler, for supporting these things, for keeping us alive, and for pushing us to do these sessions every week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Thank you, Nico, my friend, and we will see you here next week. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.